So one of the first challenges that was set down to us by the professor was obesity, and how do we get people to get up from the sofa and actually do something different, make a lifestyle change, and was a big cry for obesity to be the next one. But anyone would make a single change. So actually the challenge that comes from there is really how can we together move forward from that sofa, because I know I'm guilty as well at times, to actually enable people to take that positive step forward. And I think from other things that I've heard today, that also fits with the challenge of how do we move forward from being dementia friendly, where people get the badge, to actually being fully dementia and everyone inclusive, because it's not just about the dementia agenda, it's about us all living our best possible lives. And we miss something by just focusing on the dementia agenda, because as Nigel said earlier on very clearly, it's not just people living with dementia, it's their wider family networks, it's carers, it's their friends and families who all live with that diagnosis, and who all have to find some way of feeling good and not being knocked out and continually knocked by that diagnosis of dementia. So there's a real challenge to us as some of the doers in society about how do we move forward? How do we move forward the promise of Dementia Friends and use it as a bridge into something more, into something where, say, a particular, I don't know, I'm using Boots as an example because I spoke to them recently. So, for example, Boots are now Dementia Friends. They've got a big campaign. What are they going to do next is my question to them and to other public bodies. You know, there are many public bodies who now have signed up to being Dementia Friends. What does it mean? What are they doing? You don't just have a badge, you have to do something with it beyond those awareness sessions. Otherwise, we're just ticking a box. And then this is no longer a social movement for change. We just might as well all sit back on the sofa again. So that's another challenge, is how do we move that forward? And I think part of that challenge, particularly to public services, is how do we move forward from the risk-adverse approach that we spoke about this afternoon to something where we can take positive risks, where we can actually have a truly co-productive nature and relationship with people we work with, so that we can trust them that if they want to take the risks, that they want to live in a certain way, that we have to hand that power over to them in order to enable them to have their best possible life. And also to challenge sometimes the processes in which we work, because processes too often come before the people that we work with, and we need to put people first before our processes. Because if you were running a call centre and you wanted to get awards, what you would do is you would take down the barriers that stop people from hearing a human voice within the first 10 to 30 seconds. But we're not taking down those barriers in public service, we're actually putting more up a lot of the time with how legislation is being taken forward. So I think there's a real balance to be struck in terms of what we need to ensure that public services are held accountable, because we are there to serve the public rather than service users. It's people who use services, our family, our friends. And I think there's also a challenge that Nigel has really clearly articulated today in terms of how do we ensure that we truly engage with people with dementia? How do we ensure that our decisions are not just from our professional, social work, health background, which obviously we need, but they're actually shaped with the people who will be using services, so that when we design a new medical centre, when we design something, that it actually will work for the people who are going to be using it and their families and their members. And enable them to participate in the future as equal partners and not as a token partner brought in at the end because we need to tick the box of consultation. And also coming back to that point on funding and austerity and the difficulty with rolling out public health initiatives, I thought it was really interesting with the natural resources presentation that actually with many of those initiatives, once the initial pump funding had gone in to encourage that community engagement, that actually it could be taken forward by volunteers. And we're not good at empowering volunteers to be sustainable. We're good at people to volunteer and pitch in, but we're not good at skilling people up who think, I want to do something, I want to be out there. We very often, our programs are featured on getting volunteers to serve our scheme, but not empowering people in their communities to actually do stuff that really matters with them. And I think where you see really good community things happening is where the community has totally, wholeheartedly grabbed that agenda. And you can see that in things that are happening in Powys, in other areas across Wales, in terms of people with dementia leading that agenda and saying quite clearly, no, that's unacceptable. You cannot do this without having us at the table. And I think what is released as a dementia strategy, I very much hope that it actually is true to those voices. The other words that have really stuck to me, because they've come up again and again in the presentations, are about feeling safe. And do we feel safe sometimes with some of the public messages that hit us? And I suppose it's a plea really to policymakers is actually knowing how important it is to feel safe. How best do we get a positive message out there to encourage people to move from those safe spaces? They might not be healthy spaces, but they're a safe space to actually start to change those behaviours. And the importance again of acceptance, of contribution, connection and participation, I think amongst us all. And I think it's really important to think about your actions as an individual, as a citizen, and also in your role. I'd just like to thank everybody for their contributions today. We have been a small select group, but I think that has led to a good quality of interaction. I'm going to ask Malcolm to come up and talk a little bit about the Public Health Wales network and also finish off with the Mentimeter, whatever the final results was, if there's any difference or change.
Thanks. I'm not going to keep you long, conscious of the fact that everyone wants to get home, so I won't keep you very long. I'd like to echo those thanks to all of our speakers. I'm reminded I'm a big Elton John fan, and I was once very lucky I was able to go and see Elton John in concert. In a very large arena, along with a few thousand other people. And it was great, but actually the real key for me would have been to see him in a little small venue with just a few people. That would be really, and that's what I felt about Peter today. Peter would fill the Albert Hall, I've no doubt, but it's really nice to be able to come to a small intimate venue with a few close friends and listen to that excellent stuff. And I thank the rest of our speakers as well for their excellent input. I have got to talk to you about Public Health Network Cymru very, very briefly. It's my sales pitch. This is an event put on by us today. I don't know how many of you are members. If you're not, I would encourage you to think about becoming a member. There were forms, I think, on the desk downstairs. You can do it online. Just Google the network's website. You'll find you can register online. There is a real benefit to it, I promise you. We do a lot of things. We have a really good website, I think. We send out monthly e-bulletins that cover a whole host of subjects. You can contribute to those. The members actually determine a lot of what we do. These events were chosen by the membership. So the dementia event today was a topic that came out of a poll that we ran on what our members wanted to see aired. So we've had that. We've done things on all sorts of other things. We've done one on prison health. We've done one on the use of technology in promoting health. We have a sexual health conference coming up very soon in March, is it? We have one for allied health professionals coming. There's a whole range coming up over the next year. So I would encourage you to look at that. Evaluation, in the spirit of sustainability that our colleagues are encouraging from us with well-being of future generations, we haven't brought lots of forms for you to fill in. Nothing to do with the fact we left them in the office. It's really to do with the fact we're trying to go paper-free, honestly. So we will send out an online form to you. If you could fill it in and return it to us, we'd be grateful. You can do that online when we send it to you, and we will send out things like the presentations, and some of the links that you saw, and there will be a video going up on our website of today's event. I understand as well, although there's only a relatively few of us here today, we've almost doubled the audience with the live followers on Facebook this morning. I think there were 23 people followed this live on Facebook, which is great, so that's useful for us. Mentimeter then, I'll just finish with Mentimeter and then I'll let you all go home. So what did we end up with? How aware do you think the general public are? Yeah, that hasn't changed very much, so I think we're pretty much the same. I don't know if anyone's filled anything in since this morning.
Got 21 now.
Right. Again, that's a very similar picture to what we saw at lunchtime. Yes, 21, yeah. And it's still pretty much the same. 3/4 of us think the public could be more aware of the potential impact if they were to increase the adoption of more positive lifestyle changes, right? And in one word, there's the big one. Looks like diabetes and exercise are the key ones that people have picked up on. Diet, alcohol, vulnerable groups, a number of things there. Great, thank you all for participating in that. We'll capture that in amongst the rest of the evaluation. Have a really safe journey home. Have a really good Christmas, people. Enjoy it. There may be snow, who knows? And get outside. I think the message today is get outside and enjoy the fresh air. And thank you again for coming.